So I am going to call this meeting of the BU number 6 board on Monday, March 18th to order. Our first order of business tonight is to take nominations for board chair.
I nominate Becky Davidson as board chair.
Apparently we don't have to vote.
And any other nominations? Any discussion? All those in favor of Ricky as board chair?
Aye.
All right, turn it over to you.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate the vote of confidence. So real quick, nominations for elections of a board vice chair. Russ?
Nominate Woody.
Okay. Woody?
Second.
Any other nominations for vice chair? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now we need a nomination for board clerk. Is there any nominations for board clerk?
Shall we give it to Sean too? since he's not here?
Yeah, I guess we could.
I nominate Sean Murphy as board clerk.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
So
And-
we need someone to take notes for
Tonight, yeah, we do need someone to take notes for tonight. Is there anybody willing to take notes for tonight's meeting?
And Barb said if you just want to handwrite any major things that happened, she would type it up for us.
Okay. Great. Somebody willing to do that?
I can do it.
Thank you, Katie. Appreciate that. Thank
And I
you.
have all of the nominations and seconds so far.
Perfect, good, because I wasn't really paying.
All right.
I love
Just to go through things real quick, who were our three elected members of WSESU? We had listed as Katie, Ann, and Russ, and Woody was an alternate. Can we nominate that slate again if everyone's willing to serve? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Okay, great. Just to make life a little easier. And then establishment of meeting times and days. Historically, we've been the first and third Monday of the month. Usually it's 7, unless we need to do something extra, like tonight. So I would move that we keep our time and date the same as the first and third Mondays of the month at 7 o'clock, unless we need to add something, and then we adjust the time accordingly, or the day accordingly based on school holidays. Is that
Yeah.
good with everybody? All right, so we'll do that. And then committees. Why don't we do this, because we need to go into an executive session. Committees, as they stand right now, our finance committee is Rick, Woody, Sean, and myself. TCC is myself, Russ, Sean, Ian, and Rick. Planning and policy is Ann, myself, Katie, and Ian. BAMS committee is Sean, Katie, myself, and Russ as an alternate. And WRCC is Ann, Katie, and Woody. And then as far as negotiations go, Woody's been our person for certified staff, and I've been the person for the classified staff. Why don't we just say, let me know in the next, yes?
There's also the SU Finance Committee.
Yeah, SU Finance
Okay.
Committee is you with Woody as an alternate. So we've had listed. Why don't we just do this? Think about it. If you want to make a change in the next 24 hours, let me know. Otherwise, we'll keep everything the same unless somebody really wants to jump ship now or in the next 24 hours. Does that make sense?
I was on that planning and policy, so I'll stay there if that's all right.
Yep. Yeah, you're, let's check it out. I'll put you down there. Cool. So if everybody's good with staying where they are, we'll just keep the committees the same. They seem to be functioning pretty well. And then, so that's all set. And like I said, give yourselves a day to think about it, let me know, and I'll just let Barb know, and then she can just make any adjustments that we need to make if we need to do that for committees. And then I would like to take a motion to us to move into an executive session for Title VSA Title 1 3137 academic records or suspension or discipline of a student.
So moved.
Is there a second? Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed or abstentions? So the board and the appropriate administrators are going to retire to the conference room to do this meeting, and then we will come out of executive session, and we continue with the rest of the meeting from there. Okay. Now that we're all back, I'm going to go ahead and dissolve. I'm going to dissolve executive session.
Good
I'm
way
going
to
to
go.
dissolve us out of executive session, and we're back in open session. And is there a motion related to the executive session? I believe the motion is that the board, to move that the board uphold the findings and documentation of the administration in relation to the situation. Or the case.
So moved.
The case.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? None, okay. So now we're gonna move on with the clerk's report. And clerk's report is approval of the minutes from March 4th, which I know went out. Is there a motion to approve?
I move we approve the minutes.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any additions, deletions, corrections, or changes we need to make to those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? And does any board members have any other communications that they want to share or need to share? Seeing none, moving on. Recognitions of groups and or individual visitors. We have one visitor here. I'm assuming you're here related to the event towards later on our agenda under new business?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
That's related to the Natowich turf,
Yep.
and I'm representing Team Tenny.
Okay. All right. Is there
So-
anything you want to say specific? Good.
Yeah. So we received your letter back to us. So I'm here in behalf and to say that we couldn't even get by. It goes A through D, and we couldn't get by A because we don't agree with the numbers from the Stevens and Associate report. So we are suggesting, if we could, to meet with our group, the Finance Committee, Bob Stevens, if possible, Lisa Ryan, if possible, from Preservation Trust of Vermont, as sort of mediators and such, just because me coming here to speak hasn't really done a whole lot in our progress. And I think if we just sat down and were able to speak, that we could make some headway in this whole situation. Because because of the Preservation Trust, we do have plenty of financing, fundraising opportunities, grants and whatnot. And also the Brattleboro Town Planning Department, one of their roles is to assist groups in preserving historical buildings and structures. So we do have means of gaining funds, but we need to first come to an agreement within the specifics, and I don't think we can do it at one of these school board meetings that we need to sit down. And the Finance Committee has said all along that it's willing to work with us, so this is us reaching out, hoping that you're able to stand by your word and work with us and sit down.
Okay. I guess I'll speak as part of the Finance Committee, as our chair of the Finance Committee is not here tonight, but we do have a meeting scheduled for April 4th.
Right.
So that's our next scheduled meeting, is that morning at 8 a.m.
Right, and those are kind of, in a sense, private meetings because most of the working class can't make 8 a.m. on a weekday. We would just like to sit down with you aside at an appropriate time where most of our members were able to make it, to be able to discuss this specifically without any interruptions with other topics or agendas or whatever.
Okay, well, I hear that, but it is, first of all, it is an open meeting, and it's a scheduled open meeting. We have to have them scheduled so far in advance to meet open meeting law and all of those kinds of things. I'm happy to, as a member of the finance committee, to put something out to the finance committee and with Frank to find another time that would be scheduled appropriately, that would maybe meet your needs. What kind of time frame are you looking at that would fit better for you all?
That'd be helpful. Like for me personally, 8 a.m. is impossible. So we were thinking, maybe around this time, maybe earlier, 5, 4.
So
Something like that.
early evening would
Early
be better.
evening, yes.
All right, this is what I will do, is I will put out, after the meeting's over tonight, I will put out something to the finance committee and Frank, and we'll just try to find a time that works for everybody, that we can do a special finance committee meeting related to this topic, and plan it and warn it appropriately, and then we can have you all come.
That'd be helpful.
And then we'll just reach out to you and let you know when that's gonna happen. And Frank has all your contact information, I believe.
Actually, you don't, and
Okay.
so I'll take some notes on contact info.
Sure. I was CC'd in your in the letter you wrote to us.
Okay, so that works.
So you should.
Okay, sure, I have that.
You wrote You wrote
Yeah.
Adam, Chris, and I. So
Okay, great.
that
Excellent.
works.
So like I said, I will send out an email to the finance committee, and we'll try to find a time that we can all meet that in an early evening sometime, and then try to schedule a special meeting for that and get it warned appropriately and do that. Okay?
That'd be helpful. Thank you.
I would encourage you to stay to the discussion later on, because it does have some, it does have reference to the topic that you came for. So,
Okay.
I know you've been sitting here for a while, but I would encourage that.
Sure.
Okay. All right, so is there a motion to enter consent agenda?
So move.
Is there, move and second it? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so the first up on consent agenda is finance, building, and transportation. And I'm happy to do that report in Bob's absence, if Rick, you okay with that?
I'd rather you do it.
Okay, so first of all, we approved warrants from February 19th. Warrants 1159, 61, 1160, 1161, 1163, 1164, 1167 through 1170 in the amount of $467,204.63. Then we also approved warrants from March 4th, 1171, 1172, 1175 through 1178 in the amount of $129,497.74. We also approved payrolls for February 1st in the amount of $521,917.13, and February 15th in the amount of $632,632.90. We also had a pretty lengthy discussion, which is on under new business later on, around the turf field. And this is more of a FYI, I guess, than anything else. And so I'm just gonna read the bullet points from our notes for that, if that is helpful for the board and the public, is that the committee, that we basically agree with the following. Student need for field space has grown substantially over the past 2 decades, with addition of lacrosse, field hockey, and most recently, ultimate frisbee. The leased field space, which accommodates several girls' sport programs on the Vibeck property, has recently been listed for sale. There is no way to accommodate current activities without reducing programs in the event of the access to that field being lost. The district has made significant investments in infrastructure on Natowich Field, which includes drainage, lights, press box, tracks, stands, fencing, and a concession stand. The preset grass turf field can accommodate less than 200 hours of use per year without severely degrading the playing surface. Synthetic turf would substantially expand student access to multi-sport uses of the Natowich Field facility and accommodate potential loss of current leased land. A synthetic turf field would substantially reduce loss of practice time, canceled games, and late start for spring sports, Natowich Field could remain open during the summer months, which would allow BUHS to offer summer sports camps and other activities. This improvement would reduce disruption for physical education programs. Classes are often moved inside during wet fields, which would favorably impact the sequence of instruction for students working towards becoming proficient. The tennis field grandstand facility is in need of repair and its location restricts multi-sports use of the field. If a synthetic turf field is available where there would not be a need to reorient or change the grandstand, and the district could engage Friends of Tinny in their offer, to raise funds and provide in-kind resources to restore the grandstands. The committee noted that the synthetic turf project would be considered over a nearly 20-year period. The current financial commitment committee members whom have reviewed the needs and various solutions would like to inform the public of their findings and ask the public vote prior to June 30th. As the July 1, 2019, a new board would be formed to oversee the district. So essentially what the Finance Committee is recommending is that we move forward with doing a synthetic field on Natowich Field, which would then increase play time, increase practice times, and would allow many more hours of use, including things like playoff games, things like that we currently can't do. We would also be able to do some, or not do as easily as we do them now for some sports. And also in the fall, we would also be able to, I know a number of years ago I heard from some parents, soccer parents, related to the fact that not being able to sit in really good grandstands under lights, having a soccer game in the fall, this is something we'd be able to do, which we can kind of do now, but not in a way that is as pleasing as other ways. So we are recommending that we move forward with a synthetic field for the Natowich Field, and then that would also then have a lot of ramifications for all of our sports programs down the road. So that was a big part of our discussion also during the Finance Committee. Okay. Moving on, WSESU Finance Committee.
I was not able to make the last meeting, but Woody was, attended it, and he, and Frank, you can correct me if I'm wrong, you approved warrants and payrolls, accepted an employee resignation from Jane Gavin, and reviewed the performance of the budget year to date, and he said it was on target, which is good news.
Excellent. Thank you.
And do we have one scheduled yet? Another meeting?
Let's see. I don't think so, did we? No, we were waiting for the main board to get scheduled. That's still to be determined.
Right. Planning and policy.
Has not met.
Teacher curriculum committee.
We met today at 6 o'clock, and Raquel Moreno presented her experience both from a 1% funded course that she took at Champlain College on financial literacy, and then how she's been implementing it. And it was a brilliant presentation and a brilliant use of sort of applied using life to teach things. And she's a special ed teacher, and math, I think, is her specialty. So would use things like decisions to go to college, decisions to buy things, and she ran through the material with great ease and enthusiasm, just showing how all these things would work and how it would really connect to kids. And so, for instance, after a session, what have you learned today? And instead of the blank stares that at least I get from my students if I ever ask that question at UMass, is they go, well, what about a 401k? I mean, students talking about those things and going to college and that. So it was really good, and I would hope, and we did a little bit of discussion with Steve that perhaps we can make those resources available to more teachers, because those that could would feel comfortable and excited about using them, it's a great resource to make theory more real and use it as a learning tool on several levels.
Great, thank you. BAMS committee. I don't think it's met, because I haven't been in a meeting, so. WRCC committee.
Has not actually met, but faculty and staff and Lyle and me so far are reviewing and interviewing candidates for the director position.
Great. Thank you for keeping that moving forward. All right, is there a motion to accept consent agenda?
So moved.
Moved? Moved and seconded? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's start with administrative reports, and now we start at the far end with BAMS.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to read from my phone because my computer keeps crashing. So bear with me. I get my notes all ready for Sean. We've begun our process of creating a new updated vision. So we're working with Maura Hart, who's a consultant from the University of New Hampshire, and that's through a grant. The funding for her is through a grant through the state, and excited to begin that work. We just began last week with a faculty meeting and some opening meetings with teams to get input. So I'll share more news as we move forward. I told you last time we had a guest presenter coming. His name is Sean Derrick, and his presentation was really engaging for the kids. He ended up presenting that evening up at Mount Snow as part of the Choose Snow program, and Sean was one of the most engaging presenters we've ever had, I've ever seen in a school. The kids were, 300 students clapping in unison with him. He really had them excited. He told funny stories and shared music, but also embedded with lessons around self-motivation and working hard and all the a lot of key messages there. He also touched on social media and kind of the dangers of it. It was a really March 12th was the All District Music Festival, and that is a 5 through 12, grade 4 through 12 musical. Every year they have all the instrumental musicians from the district come. So each school, Oak Grove, Dummerston, all the schools, BAMS and BUHS, a big concert, and during the day the students have some sessions with the middle and high school students, and it's really well done by Steve Rice and Riley Goodemo primarily, and then the teachers from the elementary schools. So it was well attended. The high school gym was packed with students and families. We go into student-led conferences starting this Friday. Friday and Monday are half days, and something we started a few years ago is student-led conferences. The fall was more teacher-led, and the spring will be student-led. They sign up online. That's going well, and students are preparing their presentations using their personalized learning plans as a major platform to lead that conference. We have some staff members. We got a little BAMS team to participate in the Youth Services Bowl-a-thon on Saturday, so that's nice. We'll be representing. And April 4th is an open house for our exploratory program and also for incoming 7th grade families from the sending schools. So we do an open house, we show off those exploratory classes, and then we do information session with all the parents and tell them what we offer and answer questions. So we're well into the process of starting to transition students to BAMS. That's all I have from my phone. Any questions?
BUHS.
I'm going to read from paper.
Okay.
Because it doesn't crash.
It did crash.
So starting off, Mr. Lyman talked a little bit about the all-district band night. That was a fantastic concert, and it was 250 kids from 9 schools, which was nice. Along those same lines, tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, we'll have the jazz band, regular band, and chorus are doing their concert, and that will be tomorrow night at 7. We've got a lot of things going on this week. That's just part of it. 9th grader Ada Milton Houghton has advanced to the championship round of Poetry Out Loud. That started as a pool of 5,000 Vermont students who participate in Poetry Out Loud at their school. She is now one of 10 who will compete for the state championship. So that actually happened today. I don't know what happened. It will be broadcast live on Vermont Public Television. So I'm kind of excited to leave here and see what happens. So. Spring sports have started today. We have our usual full slate. Right now the field is white, but if that was a turf field, it might not be, I'm just saying. So we are practicing inside right now until the field is clear. And we had our normal group of students jogging around the hallways, terrifying teachers as they're trying to get out of the building. But spring sports are up and running. We had a great ending to our winter sports. We did not make any of the championship games, but in particular, I want to congratulate the girls hockey team. They made it to the semifinals. They lost a tough game 2-1, a home game, and that program under their first-year coach had a phenomenal run this year, as did all of our sports teams. Next Monday, we'll be having our parent conferences from 3 to 7. We are using the Pick a Time, the online scheduler for parents again once, so they can go online. That online scheduler opens on Wednesday. Parents were sent a letter home, and they got notification today from me as well about that. Next Tuesday, 8 a.m., we're doing Coffee with a Principal. I haven't found a principal yet, so I guess I'll have to go. That will be held, depending on what our RSVPs are. We used a room last time that was far too small, so we asked people to RSVP this time so we could get a sense of numbers. Our topic, it's an open agenda, but one of the topics we're going to talk about is we're going to have our school resource officer join us and talk a little bit about what is the role of an SRO at a high school, what does he do, what does he do during the day, what are his legal responsibilities, and so we thought that would be a good thing to do for parents at this time. Last Tuesday and Wednesday, Superintendent Holliday and I, along with several other administrators from the district, attended a FEMA training at the Brattleboro Fire Department, and it was on campus emergencies, response, and recovery. And while it was a sobering activity, we did find out that we are in pretty decent shape with our emergency plans. We were able to answer a lot of questions about how we coordinate with local agencies. One of the areas that we're going to work on at the high school is figuring out how do we proactively plan for potential issues. A couple of big events that happen here in the spring, we want to make sure that we have a conversation about, that what-if conversation and kind of put some contingency plans in place. It was a very helpful training for all of us, and we're looking forward to kind of coordinating more with our fire department, our police department, Red Cross, and other agencies. Because it is spring, that means it's interview season at the high school, and I would invite any board member that would like to, I need to know now, our health interviews, we're doing them this Thursday all day. So if anybody's interested in that, board member wants to join us for that. We have several candidates for that. I believe we're interviewing 7 people that day. And then English, we are doing interviews on March 26th and March 27th. Again, that's a huge field of applicants that we're trying to cull down. We have started doing math interviews. That's a much more challenging area to hire for content. We've started those processes. We do have a couple more that we're doing next week, but we're trying to move on the math as quickly as we can as well. So if you have any interest in those, let me know, and I'll get you more information directly to the administrator who's running that. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Great, thank you. The Career Center.
I only have a couple of things on my sheet of papyrus. Our forestry classes for the last 2 or 3 weeks have been studying tree identification, invasive species of trees, and Latin names of trees. So last week they were going over Acer saccharum, which is,
Sugar maple.
thank you, science guy. Okay, Sugar Maple, and they visited Glaybacks in East Dummerston, and they assisted with them with the sugaring process by helping them out with main lines and drip lines, and they also determined how many buckets and taps to put on a tree depending upon the diameter of the tree. Collected sap with them on Friday and actually observed the boiling process there on Friday. So last week they were pretty busy over there and visited Tim Hamilton's also during the boiling process. And on Sunday, our FBLA students left for their state conference in Lake Maury. So they just left yesterday, and they're competing today and tomorrow on 25 different events, business-related events there at Lake Maury. We've had some pretty good success in the future. I'm sorry, hoping for good success in the future. We've had it in the past. We won last year. There was no winner in 17, and we won in 2016 also. So we're hoping that they can bring home the same thing this year. So they're competing right now. They'll be home tomorrow night. And we have 12 kids competing in that. That's all I have.
Central office.
Yeah. So I was going to talk about safety, and I was going to talk about career center interviews, but those have all been discussed. So I will combine mine with the unfinished Act 46 discussion, and this, this was a memo that we received from the Agency of Ed. It's hard to tell who it's from or who it's to, but it does give us guidance on the merger, and it does say that the court decision right now is that we are still, there is no emergency injunction. We still are considered merged, and we should continue to move forward. Of course, this is all dependent upon anything happening in the legislature or a decision by the judge that we should stop for now. If you look on page 4 of 5, it speaks specifically to Wyndham Southeast Unified Union School District. For any of you that were there, we started our transitional organizational meeting with our transitional board. It was adjourned until April 2nd, and according to the Agency of Ed, on April 2nd, when we come back into session, when the transition board is sworn in, one of the chores they need to do is set the election date. If they do set the election date for May 14th, it gives people time getting petitions in on April 8th. And then having the election on May 14, following May 15 warning, the budget could be presented to voters on Monday, June 17. Steve, I think it was Steve and maybe Frank and I looked at calendars. The week of June 17 is a horrible time for a budget meeting. It's Putney graduation on the 17th, Dummerston on the 18th, Bayham's on the 19th, 6th grade move-up day is in those 3 days somewhere. There's awards night on the 20th and graduation on the 21st. So my recommendation is we won't do that on the 17th, but possibly the following week we could warn it for that. So you may want to take some time to read this over. This is the most updated recent information that I have. I did send information out to all teachers and staff today just to give them an update and make sure that they understand that we can't give them contracts because we don't have past budgets, but what we will do is give letters of intent that it is our intention that they will be rehired when we have a past budget. And that's it.
Question. Can you tell the distinction between the meeting that basically was shortened abruptly and the April 2nd meeting that's upcoming?
So we will reconvene and we will start wherever we left off in the warning articles.
We didn't get very far because it was voted to ceased pending litigation. Has that litigation been resolved, or is it gonna be the same, is it possibly the same,
Possibly,
but we have to go forward as far as warning and doing it?
yeah, we have to continue to try to push forward. That's the direction that I've been given, is that we will continue to.
But this
try to-
document doesn't offer any kind of distinction or.
No, though there are places in here, if you look at it, the agency is actively working with General Assembly to remedy the uncertainty that would be created under current law. So there are things here that says the section on transitional boards and organizational meetings. And our attorney has said that though the transitional board has not been sworn in, we can come together and meet and begin working on a budget. Because all of the people on the transitional board are already sworn in as board members somewhere, and there would be no action taken, we can pull that board together to work on a budget so that we're not scrambling at the last minute to get a
No, I
budget.
understand that part of it, thanks, yeah. But we don't know who put this out.
It was the agency of ed, if you look at the very top.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
But no specific
There's
person.
no specific person.
Thank you.
I guess during my report and related to Act 46 stuff too, just this morning I went, the Chamber of Commerce held its annual legislative breakfast, and I was there with all of our legislators from Windham County, Save One, and somebody, and it wasn't me, asked about Act 46 because I've talked to them and emailed with all of them at nauseam about Act 46. So I didn't even get a chance to say anything about it when somebody else did. And basically they kind of concurred with this memo in that everybody should move forward as if it's, if you've been told you're forced to merge, to move forward with the forced merger planning process. And if something changes, it would just essentially dissolve that forced merger and go back to what the status that we currently have. So that was their recommendation. None of the Windham County legislators are currently on the education committee in either the House or the Senate. So they were getting this from their colleagues on those committees from other parts of the state, but essentially their recommendation for us as a district and as a community, as much as this has been a really hard issue, is for us to move forward as if everything's moving forward the way it's, and then if something does change, but they said don't expect it to change, because they don't see it happening. They think that it's a done deal at this point. So, well, essentially their recommendations. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. So that's administrative reports. Is there anything else under Act 40, on our unfinished business? We have Act 46 discussion. Is there anything else question-wise related to Act 46? Seeing nothing, so on April 2nd at 7 o'clock in the high school gym, we will meet again, and as Lyle said, we will start off where we left off at our last meeting when it got tabled, and at that point the transitional board will have to make a few decisions and put some dates out there and things like that, and then hopefully move forward. We'll move forward from there. But as Rick, as you pointed out, who knows what'll come from the floor that night. With any public meeting, you never know what's gonna come from the floor, so.
The earliest you can warn that elections after that is May 14th, you said?
Yes.
And so in between those two, there's gonna have to be some sort of slate or candidates recognition, correct?
Well,
In
after
between that?
April 2nd, once the election date is announced on April 2nd, then the town clerks will get petitions out, and then people that want to run for those positions in the towns will then have to go to the town clerks, get petitions, get the signature signed, which is why you need those weeks of in between for them to get petitions signed, get them back into the town clerk's office by a certain date, to then get them created onto the ballot, for then there be a special election on the 14th to elect them into those.
Will those petitions need to be specific to the town that they come from, or
Yes.
because it's?
Yes.
But the towns are gonna be voting for everybody.
Right. So, for instance, if I was running for Brattleboro, everyone from Dummerston, Putney, Guilford, and Brattleboro would get to vote on whether or not I'm elected. But if you were running from Dummerston and you got more votes than me, but you were the third highest vote getter,
Right.
it doesn't mean you would be another representative from Dummerston. They'd only be the 2 top vote getters from each town
Correct.
on the new board. Do you have a question, Ian?
Yeah, so those, according to this, the petitions should be due by April 8th. So that gives 6 days to get them completed,
Yes.
just to clarify.
Yes. Which if we actually look at the, and Frank doesn't know this yet, but Frank and Barb and I are meeting tomorrow morning to see if we can bump that a week to give more time for petitions, and knowing that we really, it is not practical for us to have a budget vote on the week of the 17th because of so much stuff going on. So if we bump that a week as well, then it should give us a little more time.
All right. Anything else related to Act 46, question-wise or otherwise? Okay. So under new business, I know I mentioned it during the Finance Committee report related to the synthetic turf field improvement project, but I wanted to be mindful, and we can try to answer questions if board members or others have questions related to that. I've been at the Finance Committee meetings, Rick has as well, but also so has Steve and Frank. So between the 4 of us, we should be able to answer a lot of questions, if not all of the questions. But if anybody has any questions related to that, other than what I read earlier, which is just from our minutes of our last meeting, which just kind of spells things out.
Could you just repeat what the impact is on Tenny Field by institute,
Well,
if we went.
I can read the bullet point again and I can try to explain it. So the Tinney Field grandstand facility is in need of repair, and its location restricts multi-sport use of that field. If a synthetic turf field is available, then there would be no need to reorient or change anything related to the grandstands, and the district could engage Friends of Tenny Field in their offer to raise money and provide in-kind resources to restore the grandstands. Essentially, the conversation, paraphrasing, the conversation that has taken place was, right now, a lot of fall sports, for instance, get played in the outfield of Tenny Field, but it's not necessarily meeting all of the needs. So the conversation initially is that if we removed the grandstands or did something different to the grandstands, reoriented them, changed them in some way, we could reorient the baseball field to then make another playable space. But if we turf the football field, there will be no need to do that, and then we can work or engage with the Friends of Tenny Field to restore the grandstands where they stand, meeting all the requirements that they need to be made in 2019 plus, and so they'd be usable again, and the baseball field would be, and then that field would essentially just be a baseball field. Is that essentially correct, more or less? Paraphrasing, multiple meetings, because we've been talking about this at almost every single meeting for the better part of the school year. So.
I mean, I anticipate the outfield will be used for practices.
Right, in the fall or
And probably some
spring.
sub-varsity games.
Yeah, the practices, it would meet those requirements, but not necessarily the requirements of tournament or things like that.
As we've discussed, though, it's not feasible to reorganize, reorient the baseball field in any manner, because if you push home plate back, you widen the foul lines, which puts the dugouts and the light poles in play. So the discussion from the beginning has been demolition or restoration, speaking on behalf of Team Tenny. So, in terms of the turf field, yes, it helps. In terms of field space, what's failed to be mentioned, though, however, is we've talked, when Jackie was here, she talked about knee injuries and stuff like that, which is fine. There's no evidence either way. But if a goalie lays out to make a save, a field hockey girl dives to save a ball, or football guy gets shoved into the turf, you have those rubber pellets going into their ears, nose, mouth, It's an unforeign substance. Just speaking on behalf of myself as a tax-paying member, we're putting these athletes' health in jeopardy without even realizing it, putting a foreign substance into their body that's unneeded. That's just plain and simple. That's just my own opinion. Not for or against either way, I'm just saying it's a health concern. When you dive into the natural grass, you can chew on it, you can eat it, you can get the dirt in your mouth, it's not gonna make you sick.
And I will say, especially after the athletic trainer came and talked to us, there was at the committee level a lot of discussion around more injuries, less injuries, safety, MRSA. We talked about all kinds of different things related to that, and everything that we found and researched, and I think some committee members did research on their own, as well as the school administration did some research or had other people do some research related to it, is that there are injuries that happen and things like that happen on a turf field, and there might be different injuries than happen on a natural grass field, but there's not more of them or more intense injuries, would be my assessment of what we heard from all the different people that we talked to and that we got reports from. So yes, there are injuries, but those injuries are natural grass fields, and they're different injuries maybe, but not any more intense than the others. So
There didn't appear to be any link between carcinogens and the chrome used as fill.
Right.
That just seems like breaking a bone or something, but studies have yet to show the long-term effects of having these unknown rubber pellets ingested into our body. I feel like it's almost a stepping stone for cancer to put it out bluntly like that.
There any other questions from board members or anybody related to synthetic turf field idea?
Ricky, if I could just
Yeah.
mention.
Yeah.
You may have mentioned it, we also talked about a financing method and a timeline. Because there is a capital plan reserve that has already contemplated this, the recommendation was to pursue a 5-year term instead of the longer-term bond method of financing. And that format is a vote. A 5-year term is enabled by statute that allows for, of course, a vote of the electorate, but it would be at a special meeting, and it would be a vote from the floor, as opposed to the bond format, which is an Australian ballot. And then I think Ricky did mention, in terms of timing, though, the recommendation was to hold that special meeting before the term of the Finance Committee members expire, assuming Act 46 goes forward, and that would be June 30th of this year. So it would be sometime before June of this year.
And the belief of the Finance Committee and the business offices is that this is a very feasible thing for us to do and have it paid off in a timely manner and not have it be a burden because of the way the funding mechanisms are working and things like that. So we think we're in good shape to handle this in a relatively good way. And we also, the Finance Committee, we also weighed, when we talked about financially, if we did nothing to Natowich Field, we would, at some point in the next couple of years, we would have to do some major work to the surface as it stands now. So this would be, that was I know for some of the Finance Committee members, that was definitely something that they weighed into it, is that we were gonna have to do some work to the surface anyway. So the belief was, let's jump ahead and really do it well. So, yeah.
Seems to me like, from everything we've heard, it's economically feasible, it's safe, it has a huge benefit for our sports, and it sounds like it's gonna kind of resolve the conflict about the tennis field and its grandstand, so, yeah, sounds good to me.
Seemed pretty positive to us too, once we did the research and really did our due diligence on it.
So if this all passed, when would the field be ready? When would the work happen?
Well, if it passed, help me make sure I get the timeline right, Frank. If we would have to have that special meeting that Frank mentioned a couple minutes ago, we would have that special meeting sometime between now and the end of June to approve that 5-year bond, and then things would go to bid, and that process would happen ideally after graduation of 2020, like probably the Monday after graduation of 2020 is when ground would be broken to then begin that process. And then theoretically, fall of 2020, it would be playable. As we all know, that's a construction timeline and it's outdoor construction. So, if the summer of 2020 is a really rainy summer, that could delay some things, and we may have to have the first couple of football games or whatever away games. But hopefully, fall of 2020, we'll be playing on it.
And you don't have to wait for the grass to grow.
No, we don't have to wait for grass to grow or any of that kind of stuff. That's true. And it would come what we talked about too is it would come as part of the turf as it's put there. It would be lined for football. It would be lined for soccer. It would be lined for the sports that we would use it for. So and from what our athletic director told us and the coaches that were spoken to, and I spoke to a referee that referees all over the state on turf fields and non-turf fields. They all everyone said to me is that they're lined with different colors, so they know that this color's for football, this color's for soccer, this color's for field hockey, and once you get used to that, players don't have a problem with it and it works fine. So, and even the ref I talked to, who was an older person, was like, and I'm an old person, and I adapted, and it wasn't a problem. So, so that felt good too.
I talked to Bill Olson from Rutland High. He's a principal of Rutland High School. We talked and told him where we were in the process, and they went to a turf field a couple of years ago, and they're pretty happy with it. I mean, they're happy with the use they're getting out of it. They're happy with the fact that they can use it into the evening, and so yeah, it was a good testimonial from him.
Anything else on the synthetic turf field? I have one other piece of new business I just need to add, and that's related to our April meetings, and just to clarify that. Because as we decided earlier today that the meetings would be the first and third Mondays of the month. The third Monday in April is April vacation week. So I'm proposing, given the things that we are all working on and things that we need to do, that we just have meetings in April on the first and fourth Monday of the month. So it would be April 1st would be our first meeting, and then April 22nd would be our second meeting of the month of April. And if nobody sees a major conflict with that, school-wise or otherwise, I would just propose that we do that for the month of April, so we're not meeting during vacation week. Does that seem like it works for everybody? I'm not seeing any no's, so I'm gonna guess that's
May or
okay.
may not for me.
Right.
I have some time off scheduled somewhere around there, but we'll see when I actually write that schedule.
All right, but overall, it should be fine.
That cancels the meeting on the 15th.
That would cancel the meeting on the 15th, and the 22nd would replace that meeting. All right. Does that make sense to everybody? Excellent. All right, so is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
there be no further business before this board. I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned, thank you all. And thank you for the vote of confidence as me as your chair.